In this video, we will look into the sentiment analysis case skill. So let's click on activate and let's get started with our guided setup. So first step is to define a sentiment analysis trigger. So this trigger will act as a scheduled job and run periodically, and accordingly the number of assists will be utilized. And the way ServiceNow has designed this whole thing is, for example, if we have bought 100,000 assists with you, it will not be counted based on how many users have a certain role, but it will be counted on the basis of how many times all of these skills are used. And every time a skill is used, whether it is dev, test, or prod, all combined, one assist will be taken into account. So it's purely based on the assist. So you need to define your trigger accordingly. If you, let's say, schedule it every 1 minute, it will end up utilizing all the assists that you have bought if you have bought very less assist. So you need to be very sure of how much you want this to run and how many assists you have bought, so that you are not ending up, draining your pocket as a customer. So let me do this for every 1 hour for now. Okay, let's do 1 hour, 10 minutes. Let's click on save and continue. So here we can see the name of the skill, LLM service, product name, save and continue again. Then we need to choose the input. So input table is case, and the fields used are description, short description, state, priority, and additional comments to determine the sentiment, and click on save and continue again. Next is role attribution. For all the skills, we have kept the default role of SNESM agent. So let's keep it that way. Fulfiller field is assigned to, and the requester fields are consumer contact created by, opened by. You can of course add other fields too, like watch list and things like that, but let's leave it like this for now. Save and continue. Next is define availability, whether you want the skill to be available under certain conditions or you want this to be available always. I'll keep it available always for now. Again, save and continue. And yeah, again the access part, save and continue. I would like to make it visible in the desktop. So yes, I selected that option. Again, save and continue. Now we can just review whatever data we have selected in the previous few screens. And if everything looks okay, we can simply click on activate in the bottom right corner. Once activated, we will get this confirmation message, and upon clicking on return to CSM, we will be navigated back to the list view, where we can see that the skill is now marked as active. Here we have a sample case, and on this case, the sentiment is currently neutral. If I click on this information icon, it shows some comments, and sentiment is neutral and sentiment over time is not applicable. But based on the future comments on this case, the sentiment also changes real time. For example, if I add a comment that says the support team was pretty helpful, let's post this to the comment section and let's see how sentiment is modified all over again. So there's a red dot available on this information icon that says new data is available. If I click on it and try to regenerate the customer sentiment, let's see how it goes now. It might take a while, like a few seconds. Now the generated sentiment says positive and sentiment over time is stable. And it also gives us the summary of what the sentiment indicates. Like in this case, it says it indicates satisfaction with the support team's help and quick resolution, reflecting a positive tone. So it automatically tries to make out what the tone is and then keeps updating the sentiment of the case. So in this case, it was initially neutral, and when there were some positive comments added to the case, it became positive. Also, we can add a few columns to our list view to check the sentiment for all the cases together. So I have the sentiment column, but it just shows us the SysID of the record because it's stored in a separate table. So let's just go to the edit columns, and I'm gonna look for sentiment, and from here again we want sentiment trend. Of course we can add sentiment score, sentiment history to see what these fields mean. And let's remove some of the unnecessary fields for now. Okay, let's click on OK. And here I can see some of the cases where sentiment was generated. Sentiment score on this one, which we just had a look few seconds back, is positive. Sentiment trend is stable. Then the another one says neutral, positive. Sentiment score is 3 and there's 0 on some of them. Then sentiment history also shows us whether it was earlier neutral or positive and how it went from one sentiment to another. And again, sentiment score history also shows us the same thing. That's it. Thank you so much for watching.